Hey guys, my name's Megan and welcome back to my channel. It's been like 2 weeks since I recorded, but of course you don't know that. Video just came out like a day or so ago when I'm recording this, so you don't know that. But anyway, it is currently February 2nd, and ever since maybe early December, I have been reading a lot more. And just for context, when I was a teenager, I used to read all the time, like multiple books. I stayed at the library when I was a teenager. I would save my lunch money for books and CDs to the point where I would basically starve myself and not eat until I got home, which would be around like 5 o'clock. And I would just spend all my money on books and CDs. And when I got to college, I kind of lost that love for reading. And I've magically regained it, and I wanted to tell you about some of the books I've been reading. So I guess this will be kind of like an overview of some of the books I've read from like mid-December to end of January, if you will. Here's me becoming a book girly again. So if you like videos like this, let me know. If you want any book reviews, if you want to hear about the books I'm casually listening to on my audiobook, and I also joined a book club, so if you want to hear, book club tea, let me know. And anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe, do all the YouTuber things, and let's get started. Roll intro. Okay, so here is the first book I read. It is King of Wrath by Anna Hung. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. And I believe this is the King of Sin series, and this is the first book with Dante and Vivian, I think. And I mainly chose this one because of TikTok hype. And also, it was maybe like on sale at Kroger or something. Also, I have 2 of her books right now. But the first one I read was King of Wrath. I think I read it in about 2 days, I want to say. How do I feel about it? It was cool. I will say, I am not an enemies to lovers type of bitch, I want to say. I'm not that type of girl. Honestly, it kind of annoys me the tiniest bit. But I will say I did like, what did I like? I don't know what I liked. I will say, at some point I was like, so when is the conflict gonna come in? Because she sets up the conflict very early. Like, you immediately know why the male main character is upset with the female main character's father. But like halfway, like 70% into the book, you're just like, so when are the other, when are the puzzle pieces gonna come together, if you will? And it eventually does, and it's a happy ending, and everyone's happy, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just like, I will say, once I got like 3/4 into the book, I was losing interest. So I kind of think this one might be TikTok hype. I will say, I've only read 2 of the King of Sins books, and this one, I prefer this one over the other one that I read. It's cool. I will put it in my like traveler bag for the airport or something if I need, to read something at the airport. But, it's cool. There's smut. The smut's cool. I don't know. I would give King of Wrath a solid, I give it a solid 5. It's cool. I feel like, the teeny boppers and the book talkers, they just like the smut, if I'm being totally honest, because no one talks about the plot. I've heard no one talk about the plot. I've heard them talk about one scene in particular, but no one talks about the plot. Alright, the next book I read in this series is called King of Greed. And fun fact, I didn't finish it because I hate the male main character. So I will say there is definitely a pattern with how Anna writes her men. They're powerful. They're in their mid-20s. They're billionaires. They're cold-hearted. They only love the grind. They love their job until a small, petite woman comes into their life and changes and melts their heart. But then they lose the girl. Then they have to realize they have to gain her back by following her to another country. And then they magically come together, fall in love, and have a lot of spicy time in between. Now, I don't know if I can really talk about this book because, again, I did not finish it. I could literally finish it if I wanted to, but I don't want to because Dom gets on my last nerves. Like, I'm on chapter 29. I'm on chapter 29. I could finish it. I could, but I don't want to because Dom is annoying. So basically in this book, it's slightly different from King of Wrath. Like Dom is, I guess, a little less angry. I don't know. Basically, we have Don and Alejandra? Yes, Alejandra, right? Yes, Alejandra. I think that's how you say her name. Yeah, Dom and Alejandra, they are married. They've been married for 10 years. They met in college. She was his English tutor, and eventually they grew close as he was, you know, kind of like building his empire and everything, because this is kind of like a rags to riches type situation. He was a poor kid in the foster system, and he worked really hard. He worked like 3 jobs in college so he could be successful and not have to worry about money or anything. And when him and Alejandra were falling in love, there's this one scene where he makes like origami flowers for her, like a dozen origami flowers, and of course, so cute. And he's like, one day I'll be able to buy you real flowers. And then fast forward present day, towards the beginning of the book, they're supposed to go on like an anniversary trip to DC. And she's like reminding him like, hey, don't forget about this anniversary trip to DC. And of course, he forgets it because it's some big business deal. And that's when Alejandra is fed up. She's felt like she's lost herself in this marriage, in this relationship. She's put so much time into him, and he's just let her down so much. And at this point, she was just done, and she decides to leave their penthouse apartment. And eventually, she tells him that she wants a divorce. And all throughout the book, he's realizing like, oh, I've lost my true love. Like, the fact that he immediately was like, I have to win her back. She's mine. I have to win her back. It's weird. Like, you forgot about your anniversary trip. You barely talk to her when you guys are at home. You just, you know, assume she's always going to be around. Then as soon as she wants a divorce, you're like, wait, no, I do like you. I do love you. And at some point she goes on like kind of a date. It's not really a date, but she goes to like a date-ish dinner with like a contractor who is like helping, or a real estate agent, contractor or real estate agent who is helping her find a space for her origami flowers. And he like barges in on that date, and I'm just like, ew, you're divorced, go away. And he also like follows her when she like goes to Brazil to like have a vacation with her brother to like get out of New York so she can like, you know, calm her mind and like recenter herself. And and Dom follows her, and it's just like, why are you stalking your ex-wife? That's so weird, and it's creepy. And I don't know, I became increasingly annoyed with him, if I'm being totally honest, which is why I didn't want to finish the book. Who knows? I am clearly like 80% into the book. Maybe I will just like read it like as a one-off, but honestly, he just annoyed me, so I didn't want to even finish the book. So I give it like a solid 2. I also never hear anyone talk about King of Greed, so everyone only talks about King of Wrath. So, and I know there's like what? There's King of Wrath, King of Greed, King of something else. That's Kai's book that I don't remember the name of. And King of Sloth is coming out in April. So I only hear people talk about King of Rap, so I don't know what that says, but another TikTok influence, I read Chasing Love, which is basically the story of, what are the main characters' names? Alex, aka Lex, and we have, I don't remember the female's character, Charlie, her name's Charlie. So we have Lex and Charlie. They've known each other for about 15-ish years. Charlie is Lex's sister's best friend. And the story kind of starts when they are, Charlotte is 18 and Lex is 25 and he's married. Red flag right there. And basically they start an affair. And yeah, red flag. And something basically happens to make Lex leave Charlie, and she is heartbroken. And she takes that opportunity to like move away, to like get away. And 10 years later, she ends up in New York, and she's some type of lawyer. She owns her own firm, and her partner is like her best friend from college, and she also ends up losing touch with Lex's sister at some point. And all throughout the book, actually pretty early on in the book, she goes on a date with this guy Julian, and literally their first date and second date are in the same day. They go get coffee and then they end up having dinner at her house. Shenanigans happens, and a month into dating he proposes. Red flag. And maybe like a few days or a few weeks later, I think she ends up running into Lex at either the airport or some type of restaurant. And when he sees her, he's like, oh my god. Also magically in a British accent, because apparently he was in London for like 9 years. He's like, oh my god, it's Charlotte. Also, Charlie equals Charlotte, Alex equals Lex. Oh my god, it's Charlotte. I can't believe that's her. Oh my god. Is she's with another man? What? She's mine. She's mine. That whole trope. Also, of course, Lex is like a 35-year-old billionaire, because of course they are. And of course he has a British accent, because of course he does. And basically all throughout the book, we see what happened 9 years ago. And we hear how their affair started, and we don't really see what happens, like they say why he left, but they don't really, they don't say why he left. We don't get the scene of him leaving and why he left. They just say, oh, you left me because of this. But we never get that scene. Apparently that scene is in the second book, which is called Chasing Us, which, why? But basically, to be completely honest, it reads like a rom-com, and there is shenanigans and smuttiness every few pages. There is smut, and then there's smut from the other person's point of view, and eventually it just ran me low, and I just made myself listen to the end just to finish the book. Now this one, it's okay. Again, I feel like it was kind of TikTok hype. Apparently this one had a pregnancy trope, but the pregnancy trope is in the second book, so I feel like I got scammed personally. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I felt a little disgusted after reading this book. I'm not even gonna lie to you. There was just like, especially towards the end, there was just like so much shenanigans going on towards the end, towards like the middle to end of the book. That's every other scene was just shenanigans, and after a while I didn't care about what was going on. I just wanted to finish the book just so I got my money's worth. But if you want to listen to it, it's on Spotify. If any of these books are on like Spotify, I'll link them. But I was just thoroughly disgusted by the end of that book, and I needed a break from audiobooks after that. So I would give this one a solid 2. It's a book. If you want to read smut, go ahead, but literally, I don't know. It just read like one of those really cheesy rom-coms, and it just ran me very, very low. The next book that I listened to book club book that I picked out, because I did the first one, and I picked Local Missing Woman because I kept hearing about it from booktubers, and I was really curious, and I love a murder mystery situation. So I'm not going to spoil what happens. So basically all of us rated the book at like a 3 out of 5. It was pretty okay. It just felt like we were constantly like climbing up a hill in Local Missing Woman, and then towards the end we got pushed off the hill, and then we just had to wrap everything up in a bow very, very quickly. So with Local Missing Woman, basically we are hearing the story of how a little girl named Delilah and her mom went missing. And the whole time we're getting flashbacks and different points of view from the people who like were there when it was happening. We get a point of view of Kate, who is married. I think her name's Meredith. Meredith and her husband's across the street neighbor, and they are like good friends. They're neighborly friends. We get a point of view of why am I blanking on all the names? We get a point of view of Meredith's son, and we get a point of view of Meredith from 11 years ago when everything happened. And I will say you definitely do have to pay attention for this audiobook because it does time jump and like jump from different points of view like all throughout the book. So you have to pay attention. And I will say for like 70% of the book, like we're just climbing a hill just to get to the point. I will say I was guessing at who murdered Meredith, and I definitely guessed wrong. I was very shocked by who did it because that came out of left field. I do think the author kind of like threw some plot points at you, just like throw you off the trail, because there was definitely a plot point that didn't need to be there. I don't know. There was definitely a plot point to throw you off the trail, and how everything like tied up at the end was like the tiniest bit lazy. And yeah, it was cool. I would give it a 6. No, I would give it a 5. I would say it's a good one-time read. Like if you see it at the library, I would say, try it out, or if you see it on Libby, you can listen to it. Just, if you like a murder mystery and you like guessing, I say try it out and see if you can guess who did it. But it's a long road to get there. Okay, the last book I read was a book I read in high school. This is a paranormal like murder mystery series I read in high school a lot, called the Anita Blake series. And my favorite book out of that series is called Circus of the Damned. So in this book, there has been a string of like vampire killings. Like there's a group going around like just murdering people and vampires. And Anita is a necromancer, and she also a point of reference for the police, so they usually call her for references. And because there's like a string of vampire killings, she goes to the master of the city, which is basically like the head vampire, to like make sure like he's not doing it, or like to just get answers. And all throughout the book, we now know there are werewolves, and she also meets a werewolf that she will later date named Richard. And all throughout the book, we're learning more about human servants, which at that point Nita has like 2 ties to Jean-Claude. There was one tie to save her life in the first book, and then the second one the first tie was to save his life, and the second one was to save her life in the first 2 books. And the third one will bound her even closer and make her, harder to kill. But she's like resisting it because she doesn't want to be bound to him, even though she like secretly loves him, which I don't think she did. And eventually, more towards the end of the book, a rival vampire forces all 4 marks on Anita in the hopes of killing the master of the city, which is Jean-Claude. Action and violence happens, and honestly, it's a good book. It's still a good book. It still holds up. I really do like it. In the audiobook, there are different sounds. Like usually there's always like a gun show, so if someone's shooting a gun, you'll hear a little pow pow. And at the end, she this isn't giving away much, but she basically like shoves her hand in someone to like, I think to like crack their spine, and you hear like a squish at some point, which is quite a lot. And yeah, the audiobook is weirdly it's graphic. It's very graphic. And the reason I like this book because we get a different type of like main character, basically. Like she's like a stronger woman. She's a smart ass. She's not like, you know, trying to follow some type of man. Like, yes, she's like subtly flirting with one character, but she still is like bossing up at like the other characters, especially because I think Anita's supposed to be like 5'5" or something like that. So she's like trying to show all the boys that, you know, I can hang too. You're not gonna like run over me just because I'm little, you know, that type of thing. But please note, I'm pretty sure the first set of books came out in like the 90s, so take that with a grain of salt. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, I like it. It's action packed. We get a lot of information. The pacing is very, very good. There is one scene in particular that is still my favorite that I have remembered since I was like 16. And basically in this scene, Anita's driving from a cemetery with another necromancer. And they're driving away from, they're not a cult, they're called Humans Against Vampires, and they're just this violent group who tries to go around the law to like murder vampires and people who side with them. And they're running away from them because they just got attacked at like a cemetery. And as they're leaving, they're talking, then out of nowhere, they see this little kid in the middle of the road and they almost hit him. So they get into an accident. And Anita's checking the kid to see if he's like, all right. Turns out it's a vampire child. And the vampire child holds a knife to her neck as another clan of vampires attacks them in the middle of the night. That's all I'm gonna say. It's a cool scene. I like it. There's another point where she's like in a cave with like these like serpent people, and she almost drowns in there, and one of them bites her, and then when she gets back to her apartment, she literally almost dies from venom poisoning. It's a crazy ride. Highly recommended. That book is very much like an 8 for me, just for pacing alone. I really, really, really like it. Okay. So those are the books I have read from like mid-December to like end of January. And if you want to know, our next book club book is Jazz by Toni Morrison. One of my coworkers picked it out. And if you guys want to know about the stuff I'm reading in February, let me know and I'll make another video about it at the end of the month. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Do other YouTuber things, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Say bye to Max. Bye.